Hey everyone, I'm Damien, the Kung Fit coach, and today we're going to be looking at a stretch that's going to help you with lower back pain and also tight hips, which is something that probably a lot of you have been suffering from lately because of all that extra time we've been sitting down during lockdown. But first, if you haven't already, please click subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you can also head on over to kungfit.coach, and there you can sign up to my newsletter. Right, let's get into it. So today we are going to be looking at the couch stretch. No, not like that. This is actually a stretch for the quads and hip flexors along the front of the hips. If you're anything like me, you've been working at home during lockdown and you've been sat down a lot more because you're not getting up to go to the tea room, you're not having conversations with people on the way. That means that your legs and hips are just tightening up, and as well as just making your hips feel a bit stiff, that can also lead to things like hip pain and lower back pain. So we're going to look at some stretches today that are going to help alleviate that, and then next week we'll look at some stretches for the rear side of the body which will really help with that as well. Alright, so I'm down here on the floor. I've got this rolled up gym mat to just take a little bit of the pressure off of my knee when I'm kneeling down. Anything soft that you have to hand will do. I'm going to show you 3 different stretches, one that focuses on the quad and 2 that focus on the hip flexors, and which one you choose is really just a matter of what you have available to help you with this stretch. So we'll do the hip flexors first. I'm going to take my mat, I'm going to pop it just in front of my stool bars here. You can use anything, chair, sofa, and whatever is about the right height, just so that you can pop your knee on your soft point and your foot up here, just so you've got a little bit of support. And then I'm going to come up onto my foot, so in kind of a lunge position. I want to take my front leg, walk it out a little, and then really lunge forwards. As I do so, I want to push my hips forward as well. So don't tilt your hips back, tilt your hips forward, and lunge over that knee. And already you should feel that stretch along the front of your hip. We can make it a bit more intense though. We can reach up above ourselves, and then we can also lean slightly to the right. So then you should really get quite a deep stretch in the front of the hip. If you're not feeling it quite enough, you can walk that foot just forward a bit more and lunge a bit more, lean a bit more, and you should really feel that nice and deeply in your hip flexor. But if you don't have something the right height to put your foot on, then obviously it becomes a little bit more difficult. So instead we can do a slightly different stretch. The reason I recommend this one first is because it's easier to hold for a long period of time. This second stretch takes a little bit more strength to do because you've got to hold yourself in a raised position. So this, exactly the same kind of idea, but notice I've got one foot on the ground and my knee is not touching the ground. I'm pushing my hips forward, and that is getting my stretch here, but obviously this takes a bit of strength to hold it because I'm holding all of my weight. Again, we can get more of a stretch out of this by reaching up and leaning to the side. And again, the more we drive that knee forward, the more we push the hips forward, the more we lean, the more of a stretch we'll get on that hip flexor. Finally, there is the quad version of this. So for this, I'm actually not going to use my stool bars. I'm going to shift over and I'm going to use the wall. So for the quad version of this stretch, I recommend something like a wall. It really makes it much easier. You don't need to worry about height or anything like that. I'm going to take my soft object and I'm going to place it right up against the bottom of the wall. I'm going to take my knee and just like before, pop it on top. The difference this time though is my lower leg is straight up vertically against the wall, whereas before we were away, so we were at an angle, now vertically up. As before, I'm going to pop that front foot forward, and now rather than trying to push our hips forward quite so much and lean over to the side. We're going to focus on sitting up nice and tall with our body, but then dropping the hips down towards the ground. And again, you can walk your front foot out, but really think about dropping those hips down towards the ground whilst keeping your body nice and tall. And you should feel a stretch quite deeply along your quad. I'm just resting my hands on my knee for balance, but this is really all there is to it. Obviously, the lower you can get your hips down towards the ground, the more of a stretch you'll get in your quad. You can also turn in slightly, so take my rear shoulder, as it were, towards my front knee, and that can just change the position of the stretch and make it a little bit more intense. It's up to you whether you do that. And again, we can repeat this on the other side. So just pop right knee, again, leg vertical, left foot comes out in front, and I walk that foot forward, push the hips down towards the ground, and get a nice good stretch on the quad. So that's it. That is your couch stretch. Doesn't need to involve a couch, but you can use one as a thing you're popping your foot up against if you want to. Really good stretch for the quads and the hip flexors. And if you make sure that these are nice and loose and mobile, it's really going to prevent lower back pain because those muscles aren't pulling on your hips and stressing out the muscles in the lower back. So hopefully that's been helpful for you. Look out for the video next week where we're going to look at how we stretch our hamstrings and our glutes, again, to solve similar problems that we've had from sitting down so much. And of course, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.